Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets to Titles. My name is Justin Stevens. I'm back with another off-season breakdown bonus episode. As you can see by the palm trees and my Hawaiian shirt, we are here with the Miami Dolphins fans today. So I'm really excited about today's guest. I know I've said that on a few episodes, but you'll know what I mean when this show gets rolling. I got a good, strong feeling this is going to be a great episode. But before we get into all that, obviously, I got to talk about where you can find us: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, When a Family Breaks, which is our Facebook page where we buy and sell memorabilia. Spotify, obviously, is a good one for us. But down at the bottom, you'll see where we're begging for you to hit that subscribe button, that like button, and ring that bell and all that other stuff. And don't forget the 5-star Apple review on Apple Podcasts. You hit that 5-star review, DM it, send it to us, and we'll invite you into the Frankenstank League, our listener league. We are giving away one free entry based off of those as well. So you send those in, and we'll give you guys a free entry. It's only $25 for the league, so even if you got to pay, well worth it. One of our guests tonight was in it last year, and he's coming back this year, so it's got to be at least somewhat decent. And, of course, you can also always help us out, support us by using our Patreon, patreon.com/toilets-to-titles. Now at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the scroll of all of the Twitter handles for all of the guys that work so hard for you to help produce this show and help put out content. Tonight's episode is the 14th bit of content that we have put out in the last 7 days, guys. We are pushing it out there for you. Between all of us on the show, we want to get you as much information as possible. So please don't forget, hit that Patreon and show your love and support. We're going to jump right into it because, like I said, I can't wait any longer. So our first guest that I'm going to talk about here is George Reed. He's a returning guest, friend of the show. He's the guy I was saying that was in Frankenstank last year. So you can find him at BFTG Pod, which is Break from the Grind. He's the host of Break from the Grind, which I'm really, really hoping we get another new episode really soon. He's also working with Sleeper Wire podcast, doing some awesome stuff that I'm sure he's going to talk about. That's coming up here in a few weeks out in Canton. He'll bring that up. Yeah. Marine, true hero, CEO of Break from the Grind Charities, which is really, truly another reason why you can say he's got such a big heart. But George, appreciate you coming on, buddy. And in the past, you've come on. We've talked fantasy football. Now you get to talk about your Dolphins.
I'm looking forward to talking more about my Dolphins than myself. Hell of an intro, Justin. You are hired. I'm gonna send that check right now. It's in the mail. I couldn't have talked.
Do anything for $20, man.
So thank you very much.
All right. So yeah, I was just going to give you a chance though to plug what's going on in Canton here in a few weeks, because I'm going to get to meet you in person, buddy. Yeah. I'm looking forward to this.
I'm the doorman, so I'll be right there as soon as you walk in. So what Justin's alluding to is Sleeper Wire has partnered with the Fantasy Football Expo, and we are hosting an event called Draft Night Out. It is completely sold out. We've got over 84 people who are going to be participating in various drafts. It was going to be at a brewery. I just found out tonight we've actually had to move it to the expo at the hotel because we had so many people who signed up to partake in Draft Night Out. So, little breaking news: we're no longer at a brewery. We're going to be at the Fantasy Football Expo itself on Saturday from 12 till 4 is what the schedule says. We've got 8 live drafts going. There's going to be raffles, music, all types of giveaways. It's going to be a heck of a good time. And most important, I get to meet Justin. I'm excited about this.
Yep, that's amazing, man. I can't wait. Speaking of can't wait, we got to introduce our next guest. Oh, he's not on. Our next guest is Ian Berger. Sorry about that, Justin, if you do watch this later. But Ian was the Dolphins NFL Fan of the Year in 2020. I'm getting a little bit nervous right now because, to be honest with you, you're like a low-level celebrity in my book, because it's got to be next to impossible to win that award and yet you did it, and now here you are. You can also find him dolphinstalk.com, where he does a lot of work that he's about to tell you about.
I appreciate that introduction, and I will tell you, I am far away from a celebrity. I am as normal of a guy as you will meet, and my goal is to meet as many Dolphins fans at the upcoming training camp, the preseason games, the regular season games. My daughter and I, my 14-year-old daughter now, her and I do not miss home games. So we go to every single home game, and that's been a tradition of ours for about the last 10 years. So, but it's being the NFL fan of the year for the Dolphins was really just an experience of a lifetime. As a fan, you want to do as much as you can to root for your team. But this whole process, there were 33,000 entries last year, and each team selected one representative, and I was obviously the one for the Dolphins. And out of the 32 representatives, 3 were picked to be in the finals. And I was very fortunate to be able to be in the top 3. And the 3 of us were sent to the Super Bowl. And we had a whole Super Bowl weekend and had the opportunity to sit together. And right before the start of the Super Bowl, we were actually on the stage, and they put us on the Jumbotron. So again, that was insane. And then a month and a half later, I get a call from the Dolphins, and they said, by the way, they want you to go to Cleveland, Ohio for the NFL draft. We're going to fly all 32 team fans of the year, and you are all going to get to announce one pick for your team. So again, it has been a whirlwind for the last year, and all I can say is that I've been humbled through this process and really proud to be able to represent the Dolphins fan base. It's been insane.
And now, after all that, you get to cap it off by representing the Dolphins on Toyless of Titles.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. This is it. This is
the pinnacle right here.
Pinnacle of the last year right here.
For all 40 people that are going to watch this episode.
I guarantee you will have more than 40. Because I'm going to watch it at least 5 times on a couple of different on a couple of different devices. So we'll crush your 40. Don't worry about it.
Excellent.
Right on. Well, I made a vow to myself a long time ago that we'll never have a show that was in single digits. So I'll watch it myself.
That is terrific. I love it. I'll make sure I watch it a couple times and say, no, I'm kidding. I do like to, I'm sure just like you all, when you do a podcast, every once in a while, you'll go back and look at what you said, make sure it doesn't, it sounds good and it flows well. So I do that every once in a while as well, which I'll probably kill myself for saying that just now, but it's all good.
We all do it. It is what it is.
Yeah. I'm one of the few people that love the sound of my voice. All right. So, all right. Don't forget, guys, you can also catch our show at Toyless Titles. And we've got something coming down the pipeline that I want to tease so bad, but unfortunately I can't just yet. So just stay tuned. Keep it in mind that we got some big stuff coming up. And fellas, we are off. I'm going to start by asking you guys about that backfield, because that backfield for the Miami Dolphins, in my mind, as an outsider that's not a Miami fan, I look at that backfield and I see a whole bunch of pretty darn good RB2s and 3s in the league. But I don't see that one solid RB1 that can maybe take the load, that might get the nod. Am I missing something there? Is there somebody that stands out? Either one of you want to start, just go ahead and run with it.
George? Yeah, go for it.
I'll take it. So what we got in the Miami Dolphins backfield is a backfield I actually like. Myles Gaskin last year, despite the injury that he had that cost him some game, he still caught over 60 receptions coming out the backfield. He averaged over 4 yards a carry, and that was with an offensive line that is extremely young. There is a bunch of 2- and 3-year players on that offensive line. We knew coming into last year that it was going to be a while before this team actually gels. We are in a position now where the line is, if I'm not mistaken, I think outside of our center, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're returning every starter from last year. Is that right?
That's the expectation. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to be able to get the continuity on the line. A lot of those, like we drafted, I believe, 2 rookie linemen last year who didn't get the offseason program that you would normally get because of a COVID season. So coming in this year, they're getting the OTAs, they're getting mini camps, they're getting preseason games. Like all of this is going to do nothing but help that offensive line. Gaskins, while he's not a true powerhouse workhorse running back, like I like our depth. I like the fact that we brought in Malcolm Brown. He's a really good run blocker. We still got Selvin Ahmed back there, who has shown that he is capable as well. And I'm expecting at least a playoff run for Miami this year. And if you look at the last, few Super Bowl championships, like running back hasn't really been the position that's carried the team to a Super Bowl. So in this day and age in the NFL, you really don't need a dominant running back or a dominant backfield. What you need is something that's serviceable. And I think that's exactly what Miami has. I like the pieces that we have.
Yeah, and last season, the Dolphins brought in Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, and those were your senior vets that were supposed to help with the backfield. And game one, Myles Gaskin was starting back there.
Yep.
So and Jordan Howard was released, a couple games into the season because he was being so ineffective. I think there was a running joke that his we'd be lucky if he averaged 1 yard per carry, which kind of ended up being what he was with the Dolphins before they released him. But, I think I agree with George. And here's what I always go back to. You think of where Brian Flores, spent the majority of his career with the New England Patriots. And when you think about the New England Patriots and their running backs, how often do they really draft a running back in the first couple of rounds? I know that they picked up a running back with the 32nd pick a couple seasons ago, and his name escapes me right now, but that's
Sony
really the
Michel.
only. Yeah, Sony Michel. That's really the only one. If you think about it, they have a number of running backs, and each running back has a role. Either it's going to be blocking, pass catching, or actually running. But I'm a big fantasy football guy, and I always stay away from the running backs in New England, because you never know what you're going to get there. And I think that's kind of what the Dolphins are trying to create here, and fortunately with Malcolm Brown, that's going to be replacing Jordan Howard, the guy that can get us those hard 2 or 3 yard runs. And Salvin Ahmed, I think he's a pretty good too. The thing with Myles Gaskin is he been healthy the whole season. He only played 10 games last season. Had he been healthy, he would have had all-purpose yards over 1,500 yards. Excuse me.
He's so $1 a yard.
Yeah, no, yeah, ain't gonna work. But yeah, so he would have had 1,500 yards had he stayed healthy. That on average, right? Using a 10-game average that he had, and then we just picked up Jared Dokes with the 244th pick in the draft. And I think those are going to be your 4 running backs. And I know a lot of people have questions on it. A lot of Dolphins fans wanted the Dolphins to pick a running back in the first 2 rounds, and it didn't happen. And I think that's because Brian Flores and Chris Greer have a plan for the running backs. And I think we'll see that come to fruition this coming season.
Yeah, I think if Javonte Williams was there at the 2nd round, if Denver didn't trade up and take Javonte Williams, I do believe Miami would have picked him. But like a lot of Dolphins fans thought we should take Najee Harris or ETN in the first round. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. Look who's running our front office. Look who our head coach is. That screams we're not taking a running back in the first round. That's just not going to happen. We're not spending that draft capital on a running back, and we didn't. And when Denver traded up and they took Javonte Williams, I knew Miami's not taking a running back in the 2nd round. We're not going to reach. If something falls to us at a value, Miami will take it, but they're not going to reach for it.
Correct. That was my saying all before the draft, and I said it's going to really disappoint fans, because the Dolphins fans, and I don't know if it was just because the media was writing a lot of stories about how the Dolphins really need a running back in that first round. So a lot of Dolphins were, they were hanging their heads to try and get either Etienne or one of those other top running backs. And I said, it's not going to happen. That is not what this leadership team wants to do. And sure enough, that was the case. So we'll see. It's exciting though. I think the rest of the NFL will see it be okay once this season actually gets into gear.
Yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
No. If you're still talking about running backs, go ahead. I was going to change it.
I was just going to say it's not a sexy backfield, but it's going to be an effective backfield, and that's what Miami needs.
Well, okay. Well, that kind of leads us into the next question because Joe Clark here, our buddy Joe Clark, that does some of our work behind the scenes, is chiming in here. He absolutely loves the Waddle pick. He says it's his favorite wide receiver this year. And to me, I think it's kind of the opposite with your wide receivers than it is your running backs. I think there's, like you said, there's just not a lot of sexiness on that backfield. I see more sexy in the wide receivers. Like there's more potential there. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of breakout potential. And low key, like Ian, you mentioned something about fantasy earlier. I've picked up a lot of Dolphins wide receivers for dirt cheap. And I mean, one of them are going to break out.
Yeah. And I will tell you, out of all of the position groups that the Dolphins have right now, I actually feel that the wide receiver position group is probably the strongest. Yep. I think when the coach, Coach Flores and the position coaches have to decide on cut down day, who they're going to cut, I think they're going to have the biggest problem trying to figure out who do we keep in the wide receiver room, because right off the bat, you've got Devontae Parker, you've got Will Fuller, you got Preston Williams, who, when healthy, he's fantastic. And then you get, Waddle as a pickup. Oh, and don't forget, we still got Albert Wilson. You still got Jakeem Grant. You've got all these guys that, and look at the speed, just the pure speed that these guys have with them. I think it's going to be a great problem for the Dolphins leadership to have in this training camp. And I think it's going to be a pure competition during training camp, because that's what Coach Flores really does. He says, I'm going to put the best players on the field. I'm going to put the best players on the roster. And Lynn Bowden's another one. Yeah, Lynn Bowden Jr. was another one. I saw Rich that added that. But it's just such a full room, and there are a lot of really good quality players. So I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for the coaches, but I think it's going to be a great upside for the Dolphins.
Yeah, the one thing you can say about the Miami Dolphins wide receivers is speed. That's how I would define them. I mean, Jalen Waddle is fast. Will Fuller, when he's healthy, is fast. Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, those are some big bodies. Like, if the biggest thing with us is going to be our health. If these guys remain healthy all year long, like the wide receiver core for Miami is so deep that it's actually going to cause problems for other teams, because you might be able to cover one or two, but if we go 3 or 4 wide, like that's going to be a problem, because you're not going to be able to cover all the speed we have on the offensive side of the ball. You're just not going to be able to. And then you add in, you look at the tight ends where we just drafted Hunter Long, we got Mike Gesicki. I mean, the offense on Miami has athletes, speed, and size at every position outside of the running backs. And it's just going to be a huge problem for the other team's defense to try to cover all this. That's why, and I know I'm probably getting ahead of us, but that's why I'm really optimistic with Tua this year, is they've given him every weapon at every position that he would need to succeed. So now he's just got to go out and do it.
So real quick, I think Rich was talking about Lynn Bowden here. You guys were talking about him. He's wanting to know if he can be a solid part of this offense.
The thing with Lynn Bowden is that I think the coach really likes him a lot. So I think he's a guy that is going to stick around, and Lynn Bowden is that type that can play so many different positions on the field, right? He can go in the backfield. I think he was also a quarterback at some point in his career, so he can actually throw the ball. Or he could be a pure wide receiver. And he really didn't get a lot of opportunities last season, even though the wide receiver room was pretty well depleted by the end of the year. But I think that's going to be part of the hard conversation, and two, as I just double checked, we didn't even talk about Robert Foster, who was a great pickup. Kirk Merritt's another one that had a strong preseason training camp last year. Mac Hollins was the wide receiver that caught the miracle from Ryan Fitzpatrick in that Raiders game. All these guys, and people like, how many wide receivers are they going to carry?
Did anybody even mention Preston Williams?
Well, so I have a very interesting take on Preston Williams, and people don't like to hear about it because I think when I think about which ones may end up either being traded or end up, being cut, I would not be surprised, even though I don't want it, but I would not be surprised if he's one of those guys that either gets traded or cut, because over the last 2 seasons, that's what, 30 some odd games, right? He only played in half of those games because he was injured both seasons midway through the year. So he couldn't make it through the end of the year. And, it's great if you have talent, but if you're not able to be on the field, it's not going to make a difference how talented you are.
Is that what that tweet was about last night?
I think the tweet last night, we figured it out. It was he's heavily invested in Bitcoin. So and Bitcoin had a very nice Bitcoin had a very nice strong surge yesterday. So that's what that was about. Yeah.
All right. I was
just love it when all they do is like they show the eyes or they show a question mark or something, and you have to just guess what it is.
Well, that totally answers the next question. It wasn't nearly as exciting as Watson going to Miami or Preston going somewhere else.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about this defense. So, in the middle of the pack, maybe even to the upper third in the league in most defensive stats across the board last season. They were a rebuild team even before last season. So you would like to assume that those stats are only going to get better. That defense is only going to get better. So what I want to know is, why does PFF.com have the Dolphins listed as their 29th ranked defense projected going into the 2021 season?
Ian, I'll let you take that one because I got nothing nice to say about PFF.
I think they don't know what they're talking about. I mean, that's how I feel. Like, you can't. And I'll be honest with you, they going into that last Buffalo Bills game of the season, which we got demolished, right?
Yep.
They were top 5 in like 5 or 6 major categories.
Well, they ended the season number one
for takeaways for the year.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can't go from that to being the absolute, one of the 3 worst in the league. That just doesn't make any sense. Yes, there has been some turnover. Kyle Van Noy is no longer with the team. We had some other turnover as well. But when you look at the players that were replaced, they played good, average, a little bit more than average, but you wouldn't say they were superstars or spectacular. We picked up some rookies. We picked up, some free agents to fill in the spots. And I mean, we have some young guys like an Andrew Van Ginkel or an Emmanuel Ogbah that prior to last season, no one really knew who they were, and we really kept the core of the defense. And I anticipate them, continuing to build on what they did last season. I will say at the draft, I had like 4 or 5 holes in my head as far as what we needed on this team. And safety was one of them, because you've got the cornerbacks, right? And of course, we don't know yet what's happening with Xavier, but now I'm reading something where he's going to report tomorrow because he'll lose money if he doesn't. And then you got Byron Jones on the other side. So your cornerbacks are set. But on the safety side,
Zigbo. We spent the first round.
Noah Igbinoghene. Yeah, still got Noah Igbinoghene. So and the thing with him is that you don't know how much he is going to improve until he gets thrown into that position, right, on the field, because he's sitting behind X and he's sitting behind Byron Jones. But on the safety side, we lost I think 1 or 2 safeties, but we went and we drafted one, right? And we drafted Javon Holland with a pretty high, pick number 4 or pick number 36 in the second round. And he's a ball hawk from what I've heard, and some of these other pickups that we got are really aggressive. And that was a hole that we had on the safety. So, I mean, you can't, I hate to be kind of a fortune teller to say the defense is going to be better or it's going to be worse, but I don't think we made such wholesale changes that it's going to be that detrimental to our team. Right.
Now, I think we're at least a top 10 defense, in my opinion. I mean, our coach is a defensive-minded coach. So while Ian's 100% spot on, we lost some pieces on the defensive side. We didn't lose guys that were transformative, generational talent defensive players. They were okay, they were decent, they were good, but they weren't guys that made that defense. We've got a lot of youth. We spent a draft pick on the first round to address our edge position. We picked up a safety in the second round. Like, we've addressed a lot of the issues we've had on defense. So I'm excited. I think this defense is really good, and it's going to go out there and it's going to surprise a lot of people.
Well, since we kind of mentioned a little bit about the draft with Javon Holland there, I just want to throw out, I know we've already talked about the offensive line, but Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame, there's like 3, maybe 4 schools out there that really know how to groom offensive linemen for the NFL. Notre Dame is one of them, so congratulations on that one. Just wanted to touch base on that real quick. But my next question, just to kind of push the time here, we have a lot of changes that have happened over the last few years. You guys kind of mentioned your coach is a defensive-minded coach. My next question was kind of based on that coaching staff. Has that coaching staff done enough to gain the trust of the Miami Dolphin fan base?
Oh, yeah. I think if you look, I think our coach right now is probably one of the top 10 coaches in the NFL. I understand that a lot of the Bill Belichick coaching tree does not scream success, right? Like, there's been a lot, and I mean a lot of misses on that coaching tree. But I think with Coach Flo, we got the cream of the crop of that coaching tree from him. I think he's so far been the best one to come out, and Dolphin fans love what he's been able to do with this team. We're making smart decisions from both the front office and from the plays being called on the field. Like, everything we've been doing for the last 2 years, in my eyes, has been a hit. Like, we've had some misses, but your hits way outweigh your misses, and I look at that as a product of our leadership, both from the front office and from our head coach.
Yeah, and I'll agree with those sentiments, but here's my honest. So I'm an eternal optimist. So I am always talking about the positive side, and going from that rough season where we went 5-11, to last season where we went 10-6. I think that speaks volumes about the leadership, right? And I think one thing that sometimes we don't talk a lot about is the discipline that Coach Flores has been able to develop with this team. When we had Adam Gase here, when we had Joe Philbin, and you have to go back, the Dolphins were in the top 5, top 10 in the league with being penalized. Coach Flores comes in, he instills something called the TNT wall, which stood for takes no talent during training camp. If somebody, he basically said, it takes no talent to get a flag. It takes talent to actually do everything right. So what he would have is that when players were getting flagged during training camp, he'd have either players or entire units run to the wall, tag the wall, go back in, and then continue their play. And last 2 seasons, Dolphins were in top 5, top 10 of not having penalties. Yep. That changes the course of the game. You're 3rd and 2 and you get a false start. Now all of a sudden it's 3rd and 7. It's a totally different game, totally different play that needs to be called. So I see a lot of trust that he has built with his players. It is definitely not easy because obviously there's the trust side and there's also the business side, right? So what we're seeing right now is Xavier Howard, there's the business side.
Yep.
But I think he gets really the best out of the players that he has on the field. That's why too, we talked about defense, and I think he puts those players into the position to succeed, which hasn't always been the case for the Dolphins. We'd pick up a free agent. We'd spend, 10s, 20, and Dominican Sue, he was the highest paid defensive player, right, in the league at one point. He did great with the Lions, but it came to the Dolphins. We didn't put him in the best position to succeed. So he was just another defensive player with us, and that was always how it felt with the Dolphins. Now it doesn't feel that way. Now it feels like you're getting contributions from Emmanuel Ogbah. Who knew who that was before last season? So Andrew Van Ginkel, he was new to the league. No one's ever heard of that guy before. And now they're putting him in the right spot to be able to blitz, certain blitz packages. So I give that a lot to coaches. Now, here's the flip side to that. Let's see what happens this season and next season, right? Because if the team doesn't meet the expectations of continuing to grow, continuing to improve, they're going to look to Flores, they're going to look to Greer and say, what did you guys do wrong? one of the things that they're going to look at right away is they're going to look at the offensive coordinators, right? That Coach Flores has had. He's got dual offensive coordinators this coming season, which rarely ever happens in football, right?
I can't recall the last time a team has had 2 offensive coordinators.
Exactly. And then last year we had brought in, I forget the gentleman's name. Jan Gailey, right? Which a lot of people blame for Tua's lack of wanting to throw the ball down the field. And then I believe the season before that, it was a different offensive coordinator. So, they're going to look and say, you have no consistency at your coordinator positions. So again, if we're doing great, everyone's going to say you're a genius that you did that. If we're not doing great, they're going to come back and say, why did you make these decisions? You have no continuity on offense and defense.
Yeah. Winning solves a lot of problems.
Absolutely. So always.
Yep. So I know we didn't really talk about the quarterback position very much. I do have one more question for you that's unrelated to all of that. But I do want to say, as a Colts fan, I think that you guys were able to pick up one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league, for sure.
Thank you. We like Brissett. Yeah, he used to play with you guys, and I enjoyed watching him play.
Yeah, he's a great game manager. If there's a decent defense and a decent offensive line, he can win games. I think he was like 7-0 for the Colts, and before he took that leg injury. The season before last. So, I mean, he really is a talented quarterback, and I was hoping he'd go somewhere where he'd have a shot at possibly getting a star, because I think he's better than at least 10 of the quarterbacks in the league right now. But that's just my opinion, and I know it's not a popular opinion, but anyway. So my last question I have for you guys are all about your expectations for the team. So we've gone over how you feel about the team as far as individual positions, offense, defense, that sort of stuff. But your expectations as a fan, now they can be realistic, they can be lofty, whatever. They can be win-loss record, level in the playoffs, performance, whatever it is. What are you looking for as a fan for this season that you're expecting to see?
You want me to go first, George?
I think we're going to
go first.
Yeah, I think we're going to make the playoffs. I think Dolphins have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs. I think I have us going down with 11 wins, which is one more range. The Dolphins schedule, they have one of the next year, one of the easier schedules in the NFL from top to bottom.
Sorry, you were cutting out really bad there, George. I think you might have another hurricane around you right now.
I hope not. I'll start over. I'm expecting us to make the playoffs. I've got us scouted for at least 11 wins. If you look at the schedule that we have, it's not a super difficult schedule. If you look at the teams that we played last year and how they finished and whatnot, it's a sub 500 schedule from last year. So I think we can get 11 wins. I think, any other typical year, 10 wins, you make the playoffs. So I think we get one extra game this year, one extra win this year, and I think we squeak in the playoffs. I think we finish second in the division, right behind Buffalo. I want to say we're going to beat out Buffalo in the division, but they're just such a top to bottom, such a very, very, very solid team that I think we finish just behind them.
Yeah, and I will echo those sentiments, and I will say the Dolphins will go as far as Tua will take them. That is that is the way I think about it, because I think last year I always say Tua did good enough. I don't think he was exceptional, but I don't think he was horrible. But I think he did get good enough to win 10 games, and not too many seasons do you win 10 games and not make the playoffs. So that was really a weird year for us. So this coming season, I do expect him to take a jump. I don't know how big that jump is going to be, but I don't think he's going to play. I don't think he play worse than he did last year. That's my opinion. And I think all these offensive linemen are going to play better as they now have a preseason, a training camp, everything, time to work together and get their communication down. So at the end of the year, my expectation is for them to be at 12 and 5, right? Because it's 17 games this season.
Yep.
And the last thing I'll leave you with is, in prior years, when I look at the Dolphins schedule, there's always a couple of games where I'm just like, the Dolphins are not going to win that game for one reason or another. The the competition's too high. The Dolphins just are not going to be able to get up to that game for whatever reason. But this year I looked at the schedule and I said, the Dolphins really could beat every team on their schedule this season. Yes, Buffalo is our nemesis right now. They are ruling the AFC East. But the Dolphins can still beat them. If they get the right plan in place, if Tua's playing at a top, at a top, and you get Fuller, who's running great, you get Waddle, who's doing some amazing things. We can beat a lot of teams. So I expect us to at least make it to the playoffs. If we can get a home game at Hard Rock Stadium, I mean, that place is going to be insane. We have been waiting for a home game at Hard Rock Stadium since 2008. That was the last time we had a home game there. That was a playoff game. That was our Wildcat year against the Baltimore Ravens. But I have some pretty lofty expectations. I really do. 5 wins, 10 wins, 12 wins. That's the progression that I feel.
Hey, nothing wrong with that at all. Real quick, I got to give out a quick public apology to our man Andrew Campy. He's new to our team. He has done a lot of crazy, awesome work with the graphics and stuff like that with our YouTube channel and some other stuff coming down the pipeline. But Andrew came up with these avatars for us to throw in our thumbnails, and they all look amazing. They are awesome. But
Great job, Andrew.
Good job, Andrew.
Yeah, I gave him a hard time about my avatar because of all the chins that we're showing. But now that I'm looking at it live, I can totally tell, dude, that is not your fault. That's me right here. So I apologize for giving you a hard time. I love you, buddy. But I want to say thank you very much to our guests. You guys are absolutely amazing. You did exactly what I said that I couldn't do, and that is talk knowledgeable about the Miami Dolphins. I could have talked with you guys for a half an hour and acted like I knew what I was talking about, but you would have saw right through it. But these guys know what they're talking about. So Ian, Big E, Burger, really appreciate you, buddy. And if I have anything that comes down the pipeline news-wise for the Dolphins, I'm going to be reaching out to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And, of course, George Reed, you and I are going to probably be chatting every day in the Fusion chat like we usually do. But that's right. Between now and Canton, I can't wait to meet you face-to-face, and appreciate you coming on, bud.
No problem. And Ian, real quick, I'm actually going to the Week 17 Dolphins. I think it's Week 17. The Dolphins and the Patriots.
Yeah.
Little backstory. I'm from New England. I'm born and raised in Massachusetts. My whole family is Patriot fans. So me, my dad, and my brother, we go down to Miami when the Patriots come to town. To watch the game. The last couple of years, they've talked a lot of stuff on the way to the game. They weren't really saying a whole lot on the way back because, Miami beat them. So maybe I'll reach out. Maybe I'll get to meet you face to face at the Patriot game.
Please do. We have a wonderful group of people. We put on some really nice tailgates out there, outside the stadium, and January in Miami is so much better than January in pretty much any other state in the United States. So, so definitely, please let me know when you're down. I'd love to shake your hand, give you a high five, and give you a big fins up.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That always gives me the warm and fuzzies when my guests can connect like that. But outstanding. And as always, for both of you guys, if there's ever anything that Toilets and Titles can do for you, just let me know. We'll help you out. That's all for tonight, guys. Have a great evening and good luck to the Miami Dolphins.
Thank you.